You found your way here, to the firelight, somewhere between waking and dreaming, where stories breathe and time folds in on itself. So before you close your eyes, take a breath. The wind moves gently through the trees, carrying the smell of earth and salt. The fire flickers, orange, gold, and quiet blue, and the world around us shrinks until there is only this small circle of light. Every sound beyond it feels ancient. Every shadow seems to remember. I want to tell you a story tonight, a story of an island, of a people who danced with the sea and painted with the sun. Their name drifts through time like smoke, the Minoans. Long before Greece sang its myths, before Rome raised its stone, they had already built palaces that glowed in the light of dawn. They were the first whisper of civilization in Europe, and perhaps one of its most beautiful mysteries. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are on the deck of a ship sailing across the Aegean Sea. The air tastes of salt. The water below shimmers like a sheet of glass, broken only by the wings of gulls. Ahead, rising from the horizon, is Crete, long, green, and golden in the sun. You can smell thyme and wild lavender drifting from the hills. And somewhere, hidden among them, lies the palace of Knossos. No walls defend it. No watchtowers pierce the sky. It is open, flowing, alive, more like a living creature than a fortress. Corridors turn and twist like veins. Courtyards breathe with sunlight. Everywhere there are paintings. Women with long, dark hair and bright eyes. Men leaping over bulls. Dolphins swimming among coral. Flowers bending to invisible winds. The colors are still alive after 3,500 years. Trapped in the plaster, like memories that refused to fade. The people who made these things were not warriors. They were artists, sailors, dreamers. They built not to conquer, but to celebrate. And that, perhaps, is their first secret. When you walk through Knossos, you feel something strange, a kind of quiet joy, as though the stones themselves remember laughter. There are stairways that lead nowhere, rooms that open into light, hallways that echo with the soft rhythm of sandals long turned to dust. It feels less like a ruin and more like a heartbeat paused in time. Who were they? These people who lived without walls. What kind of courage does it take to build a civilization on trust rather than fear? Perhaps they believed the world itself would protect them. Or perhaps they simply could not imagine that anyone would wish to destroy beauty. Their island was a jewel set between 3 continents: Africa to the south, Asia to the east, Europe to the north. Trade ships came and went like migrating birds. From Egypt came gold and alabaster. From Syria, fine oils and cedarwood. From the islands, obsidian and song. And in return, the Minoans sent olive oil, wine, delicate pottery painted with spirals that mimic the sea. Some say their symbol was the double axe, the labyrinth, a shape that appears again and again on walls and seals. But maybe it was something simpler: the curve of the wave, the circle of life, the spiral of the shell. Everywhere you look in their art, there is motion, never stillness. Life to them was not a battle to win, but a dance to join. At dusk, they would gather in the courtyards. The air cooled, the sea wind rose, and torches lit the frescoed walls. Musicians played lyres and flutes. Dancers moved in circles. Hands joined. The scent of honey and burning herbs filled the night. The bull, powerful, sacred, was not a creature of fear, but of renewal. Men would leap over its horns in games that blended danger and grace, as if defying death itself was part of knowing how to live. Can you hear it now? The rhythm of drums carried on the breeze? The laughter? The applause of the crowd? For a moment, the fire beside us flickers, and it feels as though the same light that warmed their nights now touches ours. The Minoans loved color, but more than that, they loved harmony. Their cities were clean, their plumbing advanced, their architecture open to light. They seemed to believe that beauty itself was a form of order. That to live well was to live beautifully. And yet, as with all stories written by time, shadows began to gather. Far beyond their island, the earth was shifting. Volcanoes stirred, seas trembled, and a quiet unease moved beneath the calm surface of their world. But for now, in this first part of our tale, let's linger in their golden age. Let's imagine the mornings, bright and gentle, the smell of freshly baked bread, olives and figs laid out on stone tables, children running through gardens of lilies, sailors mending nets near the harbor while women paint pottery under the shade of trees. In the afternoons, the air hums with bees and the call of doves. And when evening comes, the sea itself seems to glow. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it. The gentle rhythm of waves against the shore, the low murmur of conversation carried on the wind, the heartbeat of a people at peace with their world. The Minoans believed in cycles, the rise and fall of the moon, the planting and harvest, the endless return of the sea. They built their lives around renewal. To them, nothing truly ended. It only changed form. There is a myth, maybe you've heard it, of a labyrinth and a monster within. A creature born of both man and beast, hidden in the twisting halls beneath the palace. But what if the labyrinth was never meant to be a prison at all? What if it was a metaphor for the human mind, for the mysteries we carry inside us? Every hallway leads to another question. Every turn, another reflection. And at the center, perhaps there is not a monster, but the truth we fear to face. That is the beauty of old myths. They are not lies, they are mirrors. And in the glow of the fire, you can almost see it. The reflection of your own face in the story. We all walk our own labyrinths. We all chase the light that hides behind the walls of time. The wind sighs, the fire dims a little. As night deepens, the stars over Crete would have begun to shimmer. Sailors watched them to guide their journeys. Priests watched them to read the will of the gods. The Minoans looked upward, believing the heavens were woven with the same patterns as the sea below. And maybe that's why they vanished so quietly. When the earth shook and the seas rose, they did not fight. They simply became part of the rhythm they had always followed, the endless dance between creation and loss. But that part of the story we will save for later. For now, breathe in the night. Feel the warmth of the fire against your skin. listen to the silence between each crackle, because somewhere across thousands of years, the island still sleeps beneath the stars, and the ghosts of the Minoans still dream, waiting for someone to remember. They say the night remembers. Some nights, when the wind blows from the south, it carries whispers from across the sea. Faint echoes of footsteps, laughter, the distant hum of flutes that no longer exist. The island of Crete listens. It always has. The people who once filled its palaces with light are gone, but the stones still breathe their stories. And if you listen closely, very closely, you might begin to hear them again. The world of the Minoans did not end in one night. It faded, slowly, like the tide pulling away from the shore. But every fading has a beginning, and theirs began with a whisper deep beneath the earth. Far to the north of Crete lies the island of Thera, what we now call Santorini. Once, it was a ring of green hills, vineyards, small villages overlooking the sea. Minoan traders lived there too, sailors, farmers, craftsmen. They called it Calliste, the most beautiful. But beauty, as the ancients knew, is fragile. Beneath the island slept a giant, not a creature of flesh, but of fire, a volcano vast enough to swallow the sky. For centuries, it dreamed in silence. Then, one day, it began to stir. The ground trembled. Smoke rose from the mountains. Animals fled. The sea turned restless, as though it too could sense what was coming. At first, the Minoans did not fear it. The earth always moved a little. That was part of island life. But the rumbling did not stop. It grew louder, angrier. The sky began to darken even in daylight. And then, the world broke. A sound tore through the heavens. A sound so vast it seemed to come from the bones of the earth itself. The volcano erupted. A column of fire and ash shot miles into the air. Lightning danced through the smoke. The day turned to night. The sea fled from the shores, and then came rushing back in walls of water that devoured everything in their path. Thera was torn apart. The center of the island collapsed into the sea, leaving only the ring we see today. Villages disappeared. Ships were thrown onto cliffs like toys. The explosion was heard as far as Egypt, and the waves reached Crete. Imagine standing in Knossos, the sky dim with ash, the earth trembling under your feet, the sea roaring in the distance. Did they understand what was happening? Did they pray to their gods, or simply watch in awe as the heavens fell? We will never know. The Minoans left no words behind. Only silence. Only ruins. Archaeologists today find traces of that day. A thin layer of ash buried beneath centuries of soil, broken pottery scattered like bones of the earth. And yet, even in their destruction, the Minoans left behind beauty, Among the ruins of Thera, frescoes survive, bright paintings of lilies, swallows, dolphins, and young men gathering saffron. Life captured in color, moments before it was erased. Isn't it strange how even in ruin there is grace? As if they wanted to remind us that creation and loss are the same heartbeat. But here is where the mystery deepens. After the eruption, Crete was wounded, yes. Its harbors ruined, its trade routes broken. And yet, the Minoans rebuilt. For a time, they continued to thrive. New palaces rose, new frescoes bloomed. It seemed as though nothing could truly end them. And then, something else happened. Something darker. Something no one can fully explain. Whisper of the wind. Maybe it was invasion. Maybe disease. Maybe the gods themselves turned away. But one by one, their cities fell silent. Knossos burned. Its halls, once full of music, became tombs of ash and shadow. The laughter vanished. The colors faded. And the island forgot how to dream. We know that centuries later, the Mycenaeans from mainland Greece arrived. They spoke a new language, carried bronze swords, and worshipped new gods. In their stories, they remembered a king, Minos, and a labyrinth of horror. Perhaps that was how they made sense of what they found. The ruins of a palace so vast and confusing, it could only have been built to hide a monster. But maybe, just maybe, the real monster was time itself. Time devours everything, even beauty. And what it cannot eat, it buries beneath layers of silence. Some say the Minoans vanished completely. Others believe they lived on in whispers, their blood flowing through later Greeks, their symbols and myths reshaped into legend. The labyrinth, the minotaur, the sea bull, echoes of a past too ancient to remember, yet too strange to forget. And then, there are those who dream of Atlantis, a lost world swallowed by the sea, a civilization of peace and light destroyed in a single night of fire and water. Could Thera have been Atlantis? Was Plato's myth a memory of the Minoans? Or do we simply need Atlantis to exist, because some part of us cannot bear the thought that beauty can vanish forever? Every culture leaves behind ruins, but only a few leave behind a feeling. The Minoans left warmth. Even now, when you stand among the broken columns of Knossos, there is no dread, no heaviness, only sunlight, dancing across stone. Only the faint murmur of the sea. It's as if the island itself refuses to mourn. And perhaps that is their true legacy. Not the mystery of their fall, but the serenity of their life. They showed the world another way to be great. Not through conquest, but through creation. Not by walls, but by open courtyards. Not by power, but by grace. When you close your eyes now, imagine walking once more through those corridors. The air cool, the walls glowing faintly with color. You can almost hear footsteps, soft, rhythmic, distant. Someone turns a corner ahead of you, a shadow carrying a basket of flowers. You follow, but when you reach the doorway, they are gone. Only the scent remains. Saffron, lilies, the sea. That is how memory works. It never vanishes completely. It lingers, waiting to be found again. And maybe, when you sleep tonight, you will dream of them. The people who lived with the sea, who built their world on beauty, who vanished into silence, but left behind a shimmer of light. The fire fades now. The night deepens. The waves become slower, calmer. And if you listen closely, beneath the rhythm of your own breath, you might still hear the echo of drums, the distant hum of flutes, and the quiet heartbeat of a lost world. Nothing is truly lost, the island whispers. It only changes shape. Morning will come soon, but the story isn't over. The fire burns low now. Ash drifts like snow in the night air. Somewhere beyond the darkness, the sea breathes against the rocks, calm and patient. It has seen everything. Every rise, every ruin, every dream that dared to build upon its edge. Centuries passed. The palaces of Knossos and Paistos and Zakros crumbled into the earth. The vines crawled over broken walls. The voices of the Minoans faded into the whisper of the wind. For a long time, no one remembered their name. The island was just an island again. And yet, time never truly buries everything. It only hides things long enough for someone to wonder. It wasn't until the 19th century that the silence began to break. A man named Minos Kalokyrinos, a local from Crete, found strange walls beneath the olive trees near Knossos. He thought they might be ancient, older than Greece, older even than Troy. But it would take another dreamer to prove it. His name was Arthur Evans, a scholar, a collector, a man both fascinated and haunted by myths. When he arrived in Crete in 1900, the island was alive with spring, fields of poppies and daisies, bees humming over the ruins. Evans began to dig, and the earth began to speak. Day after day, layer by layer, he uncovered walls, staircases, chambers, jars still scented faintly of olive oil and wine. He walked through corridors painted with dolphins and lilies. He touched frescoes that had not seen light in 3,500 years. And slowly, a picture began to form, not of a myth, but of a world. He called it the Palace of Minos, and he called its people the Minoans, after the legendary king who ruled over a labyrinth. But he knew, even then, that this was only a name borrowed from a dream. The real people, whoever they were, had long since vanished beyond history's reach. Still, the discovery was like a voice rising from the depths of time. The Minoans were not a whisper anymore. They had shape, color, story. But even as Evans uncovered their beauty, questions began to gather like clouds. Who were they, truly? Where had they come from? How had they built a civilization so advanced, so graceful, without the need for walls or armies? And the greatest question of all, why had they vanished? No one could answer. Even now, more than a century later, no one can. Archaeologists debate, scientists test, but the heart of the mystery remains untouched. Like the center of the labyrinth itself, some say it was the eruption of Thera. Others point to invaders from the north. Some speak of famine, or plague, or a slow unraveling of the trade routes that once fed their prosperity. Each theory holds a piece of truth, perhaps, but none hold the whole. It is as if the Minoans chose to dissolve rather than die. When Evans restored parts of Knossos, he painted the walls bright again, crimson, ochre, sapphire blue. He wanted people to see the palace not as ruin, but as it had been, alive, vivid, filled with light. And when you stand there today, walking the same stairs he walked, it feels less like a museum and more like stepping into a dream that never quite ended. Sometimes, standing in the great court, with the sea breeze moving through the open columns, you can almost hear footsteps, soft, quick, light. Maybe it's just the wind. Maybe not. Memory, after all, has its own kind of breath. The Minoans are gone. Yes. But they left fingerprints on the world. Faint, scattered, but real. Their art shaped the myths of Greece. Their symbols, the bull, the double axe, the spiral, became echoes in temples, stories, and songs. Their sense of beauty changed what it meant to be civilized. And maybe that is the greatest kind of immortality. Not to be remembered by name, but to be felt in the rhythm of the world that followed. So, what are we left with, here at the edge of their silence? A handful of ruins, a few painted walls, traces of perfume in ancient jars, and questions. Endless, beautiful questions. How much have we lost to time? How many worlds lie still beneath our feet, waiting to be found? How many stories? How many lives? How many dreams have turned to dust, yet still hum faintly beneath the surface of the world, like a heartbeat we can almost hear? When you think about it, we too are part of that same rhythm. We build, we dream, we vanish. And somewhere in the far future, someone will stand over our ruins and wonder who we were. They will hold our artifacts in their hands and ask the same questions we ask tonight. And maybe, just maybe, they will feel the warmth we felt, the beauty we sought, and they will whisper, they lived, they loved, they dreamed, because that is all any of us can leave behind. A trace of beauty, a mark of meaning, a whisper in the dark. Look at the fire now. Only embers remain. Each one glows like a tiny sun, a small world burning quietly, before it turns to ash. That's how civilizations end. Not with thunder, but with the slow, graceful fading of light. But remember, every ember, every spark carries the promise of flame. And as long as there is curiosity, as long as there is wonder, the Minoans are not gone. They live in the questions, in the awe, in the gentle ache of mystery that keeps us looking backward even as the world moves forward. So, as you drift into sleep, imagine this. You are standing on the shores of Crete. The stars shimmer above the sea. The air is warm, scented with salt and rosemary. In the distance, waves break against stone. Slow, steady, eternal. And for a moment, you see them. Figures in the moonlight. Women with flowing hair and bracelets of gold. Men carrying baskets of grain. Children laughing softly, chasing shadows through the ruins. They turn to you and smile. And then they fade into the mist. Nothing is truly lost. The island whispers again. It only waits to be remembered. The world around you grows quiet. The fire has burned down to a gentle glow, and the only sound that remains is the soft sigh of the sea. Each wave folds over the next, slowly, patiently, as if the water itself is breathing. You lie back, eyes half closed, and the edges of the night begin to blur. Somewhere between waking and sleep, you feel the sea reaching for you. It pulls you closer, not with force, but with memory, as though it has been waiting all this time to show you something it remembers. The darkness turns to light. You open your eyes, and sunlight spills across your face. It's warm, golden, ancient. The scent of the air is strange, sweet with figs, salt, and fresh bread. You sit up, and for a moment, you don't understand what you're seeing. You are standing in another time. The sound of voices fills the air. Laughter, footsteps, distant songs. Walls of painted red and gold rise before you. Columns spiraling upward, their surfaces gleaming in the morning light. You can hear the flap of sails in the harbor below, the gentle hum of a city just awakening. You touch the stone beside you. It's smooth, warm from the sun. Under your fingers, you feel the faint pattern of carved spirals, symbols of waves, of time, of life itself. A breeze moves through the courtyard, carrying the fragrance of olive oil and wild herbs. Somewhere nearby, a woman hums while grinding grain. You begin to walk. The marble beneath your feet is cool, polished by countless footsteps before yours. Children rush past, their laughter echoing between the columns. A merchant calls out, displaying bronze vessels that catch the sunlight like fire. There is color everywhere. Deep blues, sun-baked terracotta, the white of linen catching in the breeze. You pass a wall covered in paintings. Dolphins leap through waves. Flowers twist into patterns of gold and blue, and people dance in circles, their faces serene. The Minoans, your people, seem alive in every stroke of color. You can almost feel their joy, their sense of balance and beauty. A soft voice calls your name. You turn toward it and see a group gathered near a shrine. They bow their heads, placing small offerings of honey and fruit before a clay goddess. The air smells of incense and warm wax. You kneel without thinking, feeling the cool stone beneath your knees. And in that quiet moment, it feels as though the entire island is breathing with you. Later, you walk toward the harbor. The sea stretches out endlessly, blue upon blue, merging with the sky. Ships made of cedar and linen sway gently, their ropes creaking in rhythm with the tide. Fishermen repair their nets, and somewhere far out on the water, you hear the faint call of a horn, a signal to a ship returning home. You dip your hand into the sea. The water is warm and alive, sliding between your fingers like silk. You see your reflection there, but it's not the face you know. The eyes are darker, the hair sunlit and braided with small shells. You smile, and for the first time in a long time, you feel completely at peace. As the day unfolds, you wander through olive groves and sunlit terraces. Bees drift lazily between wildflowers, and the sound of distant drums rises from the heart of the city. A festival is beginning. You follow the music through winding streets lit with flickering torches. People dance in spirals, their movements echoing the rhythm of the waves. You join them. Each step feels effortless, familiar, as if your body remembers something your mind forgot long ago. The sky begins to fade into gold, then pink, then the deep blue of evening. You walk toward a hill overlooking the palace. The sea glows like glass beneath the setting sun. Fires burn in the distance, their smoke rising in thin, graceful trails. For a moment, the entire island seems to shimmer, as if time itself is holding its breath. You sit down in the grass. The earth beneath you is still warm from the day. You listen to the insects, to the wind, to the steady heartbeat of the island. It's slow, patient, eternal. And as the first stars appear, you realize the same rhythm beats within you. The moon rises. Its light spills across the ruins, turning stone to silver. You close your eyes, and the sounds of the ancient world begin to fade. The laughter, the songs, the sea, all drift further away until only the whisper of the waves remains. The tide moves closer. The air cools. You feel yourself sinking, not into water, but into stillness, into a memory too deep for time to touch. And as you drift downward, you understand you are both the dreamer and the dream. The Minoans never truly vanished. They live in the rhythm of your breath, in the beating of your heart, in the endless conversation between sea and sky. Sleep now. Let the island carry you. Let its story fold around you like the tide. The world is quiet again. The sea whispers softly, and somewhere beneath its shimmering surface, the island still breathes.